Hebrew governor of Egypt. Joseph. Joseph was the 11th son of Israel. Israel was formerly known as Jacob. Jacob was one of the sons of Isaac. He was a twin, him and Esau. And Isaac was the son of Abraham, one of the sons of Abraham, and the chosen son of Abraham. Isaac and Ishmael. So the Most High changed Jacob's name from Jacob to Israel, meaning as a prince that strive with the Most High and with men and prevails. Or it also means the Most High Yah prevails. Okay, Israel. So Jacob had 4 wives, and out of those 4 wives, he had 12 sons. And out of those 12 sons became known and commonly known as the 12 tribes of Israel. So Joseph, he was the 11th son. He had 2 sons, okay, Manasseh and Ephraim, okay. They were born to him by an Egyptian, one of his Egyptian wife, Asenath. Okay, so prior to him being a governor of Egypt, he was, of course, grew up in his father's house. He was born from one of Jacob's wife, Israel's wife. Her name was Rachel. And Rachel, out of all of Jacob's wives, he really adored her the most and loved her, and paid many price to really go through many years to actually buy her as a wife. Okay. So when Joseph was born by Rachel, Jacob really favored Joseph, right? Including the mom. They favored him, and they gave him a coat with many colors. Okay. And that coat with many colors, it was just a symbol of their favor, right? And they gave so much attention, especially the father gave so much attention to Joseph compared to the other brothers, the 11 brothers, actually the 10 brothers, because he was the 11th, and then there was one more named Benjamin. Okay, he's the 12th son. So out of the 10 brothers, they were so jealous of him. And one day they went taking care of their sheep out in the field, and the father sent Joseph to go see, the progress of the brothers, how they're doing and everything, and bring back report. Because he was considered like his father's eyes, right, to see what's going on. So he went, and the brothers saw him from afar, and they planned to get rid of him because of their jealousy, to the point of they were so angry, they're willing to kill him, to the point where their older brother Reuben had to stop him from such act, right? So instead, encourage, and rather them trying to kill him, they should put him, like maybe in the pit, and his more attention probably was to get him out of there, However, so they eventually did all that plot. When he came to them, closer to them, they took his coat from him. They grabbed him and put him in the pit. All right, and left him there. So there were men passing through to Egypt, and they pretty much sold him to that men that were going to Egypt, as a slave. And so as they took him, they grabbed him, They sold him and sold him to Egypt. So he ended up going to Egypt. When the pharaohs that was ruling at the time chose him to be a worker of his house, and he was a great worker, a hard worker, right? To the point he got so much favor. He was second in pretty much just in the pharaoh's not Pharaoh, Potiphar's house. One of the Pharaoh's leaders. His name is Potiphar. So one day, Potiphar's wife acknowledged his strength, his being handsome, and she was by all costs, by every means necessary. Especially in the book of Jasher, goes into some more details about this. She was aggressively enticing him daily to come sleep with her. Besides her being married, daily, non-stop, to the point as he kept refusing, she got so upset and eventually set him up and cried out saying that she was raped, abused by Joseph, and then she lied on him, and then they took him to prison. Potiphar just took his wife's word, and he was lied on. They took him to prison, and he was there about 12 years. 12 years. So within that time, there were two men who, one was a cupbearer and one was a baker, and they both had a dream, and so Joseph was able to interpret their dreams. One of them was, he's saying as a cupbearer he would be restored. The dream showed forth that he would be restored back to his position. And then the other baker, he would end up in 3 days. He would get, he'd be killed, right? And the birds will pluck off his flesh. So it just these dreams actually took place and they happened because he was able to see that future. So as years, the cupbearer left, years went by. Pharaoh at the time had a dream and no one was able to interpret it. And then the cupbearer, and so when he was leaving, Joseph requested, ask him if he could remember him, right? So he definitely forgot him all these years until that time when Pharaoh needed somebody to interpret her. He just remembered it was a Hebrew in prison that he remembered who was able to interpret my dream to the point where he got back to his position. So Pharaoh called him out and he was able to interpret a dream that was making him restless. It talks about the dream showed, 7 slim cows, very slim, were eating off the fatted cows. Same thing, dried wheat, they were eating off the healthy wheat, right? What does this mean? They were so aggressive, for the 7 of them, right? In the other 7. And he just interpreted it just means 70 years of plenty in this time, and there'll be 70 years of abundance in Egypt, on the earth in general. And then there's going to be 7 years of famine, that to a point where many people will lose their lives, if nothing is being done. So he gave an advice for Pharaoh to have someone to lead and stock up on food and prepare. So that you see on there is in the drawing that I did, to prepare the food, okay, within those 7 years. And then when those 7 years of famine comes, they'll be prepared. So to the point where there was that 7 years that actually took place, right? But before that, Pharaoh realized that no one's able to give such wisdom only from the Most High, and the Spirit of the Most High, Yah, was in Joseph. So he chose him as a second in command, after him, to be leader of a governor over Egypt. So he became, within his leadership, he was able to lead Egypt to stock up on food and prepare for the times that are coming. Okay, so so it's good to stay prepared. So as they were preparing, the 7 years eventually came of 7 years of famine, and the whole world was in famine, and they actually had to come to Egypt to come buy food, because he said, one of part of the advice that he gave was to stock up on food to the point where the world would come and would have to come purchase from them, right? And trade what they have. If someone would sell land, some of them would sell, different things to barter, to get food, because it was just so dry, lack of food. So eventually, even his own brothers came. He was able to recognize them, but they were not able to recognize him, and it really bothered him to the point where he was just so bothered. But to make the long story short, he gets to the point where he, was playing with them, saying that they were claiming that they were thieves, and locked on one of their brothers to go get their father, and all that, find out they, first of all, ask them if their father's alive, and then to go get their father, and so they had to go come. And prior to that, all these years, they also lied that when their brother sold Joseph, they lied to their father all these years ago that he was being eaten by a wild animal. And so all these years, their father, Israel, has dealt with that lie. So he didn't want anything else to happen, but eventually he came, and then he revealed himself to them. And the whole restoration took place. He had to forgive them, and that forgiveness, that strength of forgiveness, came from the Most High to be able to forgive for what they did. But Joseph knew that this had to happen in order for the whole world, not only for his family to be preserved, but even the world at that time to be preserved. So everything happened for a reason, especially those who love the Most High. Continue to endure. In due season, He will restore the blessings and everything else. The reward, He will reward you as you continue to persist, even though it seemed like nothing is happening. It's just there's no light at the end of the tunnel, they say, but there is a light. There is eventual hope and progress and victory. So he was able to forgive, and then he was able to bring his whole family, the whole Israelites that came there, and through that, the whole Israelites, the population of Israel continued to grow in Egypt. Um, so, but it's just, but definitely the people in Israel were definitely melanated for sure. As you can see, the ancient Egyptians as well as the Hebrews. So I wanted to also show the true color of our people as well as the story. You could also find this in Genesis chapter 41 and on. Okay. All right. Thank y'all for listening. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Bless y'all. Have a blessed week. Shalom.